I'm ready.
Yeah, me too.
Okay. So I think we are on. They are waving in the background. So welcome everyone. Welcome guys. Today we have our lovely Petri and Peja with us. It's not the first time that we are talking, right? So last year when all of this COVID situation started, we did something like this online before. I hope you guys liked it. I assume because you joined again.
Again, yeah.
Yeah. So today we are going to talk about the Scrum Master and Product Owner role and actually how connected they are. So welcome, guys.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Because we have a lot of people joining us and probably a lot of people with different knowledge about Scrum and Agile. Should we start with a short introduction for all of those who are maybe not so familiar with these two roles? So maybe just a short introduction, what is actually a Scrum Master role and what is actually a Product Owner role? So maybe we can start with the Scrum Master role. Petri, could you just give a quick brief?
So Scrum Master in the Scrum framework is a coach role. They are a supporting role. They are a leader in the process sense, but they don't, there are different ways people do this, but in the framework itself, the Scrum Master is defined as a coach, and they don't engage with, they don't contribute to the work itself. So their value is on helping others perform better and be more collaborative, and also help the organization embrace Scrum and Agile and be more effective. So it's a coach, facilitator, mentor, things like that, trainer.
Okay, and what about the Product Owner role? If this is the coach?
I would like to sort of give two angles to it. So one would be how the Scrum Guide defines the product owner, and it's a person who is accountable for the value that the team produce. And that's so, in essence, someone who is actually dealing with what the team will be doing on. And that, I would say, is sort of a narrow view upon the product owner role. So it's just, it actually covers, or it defines just a part of what product owner is really doing. And when you look at it, I mean, why is it so? Because, a Scrum Guide doesn't go into how the backlog will be formed, what the team will be doing is formed, where does it emerge from? And that is something that, someone has to do. Someone has to, think about the things that should be done and verify them or validate them with users, etc. And pretty natural position is for the product owner to be doing that. Not necessarily it's always like that, but in general it would make sense to be so. So I like when I've been thinking about this, who the product owner is and what this person is doing. You feel that it's more than what the Scrum Guide prescribes. And actually, then I found Melissa Perry and her sort of thought around it, and it pretty much verbalized what I've been thinking about. And she says, this is not a quote, it's just a paraphrase of her words, but the product manager is what you do. This is what your job is. While the product owner is actually a role you play in certain environment, in this case, in a Scrum team, So actually, I mean, to me, the difference between the product owner and the product manager is in this. So actually, you are a product manager. You just in a Scrum team, you perform the role of a product owner. So actually, you are a product manager. You just in a product
role. So basically, you both were in those roles. Actually, Petri, you were in the product owner role. Petri, you've been in the Scrum Master role, and I think both product owner role, and you are doing a lot of trainings about those two things. So what do people expect from them? So that is what they should be doing. We talked about, okay, what is it like how it should look like. But in practice, what is expected from these two roles? Some examples, maybe. What was expected from you that you didn't? Maybe when you did that role, you didn't. Well, you were like, oh, okay, should I be doing that?
Yeah.
Well, if I start, there could be a lot of expectations, and a lot of people have to deal with them being Scrum Master being equated with a project manager of sorts, or say an Agile project manager. You got job adverts for Agile project managers, for example. And they think that Scrum Master is the person who sort of holds the strings together, leads the self-organized teams, works with the product owner to manage the backlog, and they are the spider in the middle of the web. Now, that is, as far as it could be from what the Scrum Guide says about this role and how I prefer to play it. It's very easy to get engaged with the content. It's very easy because the teams are doing exciting stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And especially if you come from a project managerial role into it, that is your built-in reflex. If we add on to that the culture in which you operate is very much, there's a lot of traditional elements there. It's very easy for people outside the team to think that you're a project manager. And so you kind of get this pressure to try to manage things. You run the meetings, you invite people in, you make sure the timelines are there, you keep track of the progress, you make it visible. That's really something that the team should be doing for the most part. Mm-hmm. I might get asked as a Scrum Master, do we have the backlog up to date? Well, is that my job to do? No, it's the product owner's job. But in a lot of environments, that's what kind of already, again, falls on the Scrum Master. But if we have a healthy environment, a good Scrum environment, then what we expect from the Scrum Master is to sort of bring new ideas in, help the team to embrace, help the team themselves to take ownership of their work. That's not a trivial thing for most people, is, how to be self-organizing. Mm-hmm. How many have been in a self-organized team, genuinely self-organized team? Not that many people. So Scrum Masters should bring that knowledge and help them learn to play that thing. It's very easy to get dominant personalities because of expertise or other reason. And they can skew the whole thing away from actual self-organization, which is healthy and balanced between people. Now, certainly different people have different contributions. There's nothing wrong with that. But in terms of engagement and in terms of voice being heard, even if their voice doesn't count as much because of their lack of expertise in some areas, they still have a voice. And we want to create an environment. So that's the kind of stuff that we should have brought to the table by the Scrum Master. So having a great Scrum Master, everybody else is performing better and playing well together. They learn to play well together. And that's what I hope that Scrum Masters would be asked to do.
And Petri, what do people maybe sometimes expect from a PO?
Well, there is so much things. There are so much things that people expect from the product owner. Some are, okay, and are in the scope of what the product owner should be doing. The others are not. And it comes, as Petri mentioned, if you're in an organization that is very well aware of project management practice and waterfall kind of doing, then the expectations go into that direction. So, and that's where some of the expectations overlap. So actually in these organizations, people have two persons to choose from which they would expect the project management activities. So they look at the Scrum Master, but then again, they look at the product owner. So, each one of them could be a good fit. And then the one who bites first, he will be our guy. So that's one part of the things. Often there is this, I would say a misconception that a product owner is responsible for everything. And the logic is, if you're a product owner, so you are the owner, and then hence you're responsible for everything that is related to this product. Mm-hmm. this is not actually a feasible standpoint because one person cannot be responsible for everything. So there are other persons that are also involved in this whole process, and they have their stake of accountability and responsibility. So, if just for example, if the team is not achieving the sprint goal, or if the team is not performing well, that cannot be responsibility of the product owner. He might have his stake in it, and he might be a part of the reason why it's not performing very well, but it can't be his or her responsibility. Then there is also often when you're talking to the developers, you see that what developers are expecting from product owner is actually a requirement.
How to do things, maybe.
Yeah, that's another. Another. I'll come to it in a minute. But expecting what the specification of what should be done, So, but then it's not the user story. I mean, there is no discussion around the requirement document. So, requirement document, you get it and you code. So then you're not an engineer, you're a coder. So that makes a difference.
Yeah.
And then, as you mentioned, sometimes I hear that developers are looking at the product owner as some sort of a system architect, or a senior colleague who might solve different problems. And this might be pretty much of a challenge if the product owner has a technical background. So they have been developers previously and then went into a product role, and then team expecting from this person to come up with how we should be doing things, and then it's not easy to pull out from it because you have some burden, you have some people know that you know something, but I think that product owners should get out of this position as soon as possible, because it's not beneficial neither for product owner and his activities that he has, nor for the team. As Petri said, this team should be working as a team. So
if we say that a product owner is responsible, let's say like that, for what is doing, the development team is how we are doing it. So basically, the Scrum Master maybe how fast are we doing it? How successful are we doing it? Can we?
How can we learn? How can we learn to be better in supporting that process? Now, I want to add something to the product one, because I there's a lot of good in this metaphor. I like to think of them like a captain of the ship. So if you think of any modern ship, the captain is really just the figurehead. I mean, they decide the direction, the path that we take, but most activities are done by the crew in various forms. We got the first mate, we got the deck hands, we got the engineers in the machine room, and they are actually doing much of the thing, but the captain provides that ultimate uniting vision, like how are you going to run this ship and what are the agreements and making. Now, the captain has more power than the product owner has, so that's the part that doesn't work. But the thing about this another aspect that does work is that captain of the ship is a representative of the organization who owns the ship. So that's another thing about product owners. They are not all powerful. They work within and in collaboration with the rest of the organization. So the ship is part of a larger fleet often, where we have others, and they have their own captains. And so that's the kind of thing the product owner is. It's representing and owning some part of what we need to do, and how this product that we have is going to serve those needs, but is collaborative with the rest of the organization as well.
So, Pedro, you're a captain of a white ship.
Yeah, sort of. Just linking to what Petri said and to expectations. Sometimes product owners have I would say wrong expectations from themselves and and the environment. Especially if new person is coming to the company or to the team, and then sometimes I hear like thoughts of, yeah, but I cannot make a decision actually, and then and then we come to the discussion, what exactly do you expect? As Petri said, the captain of the ship is controlling this particular ship, but he's not the sole person in the universe. So there are other ships, there are other, requirements from him, so he might probably, I don't know, get from whatever, Amsterdam to New York in whatever, I don't know how much it takes to the ship, but he might probably, take it in less time, but then, he would consume more oil, and then it's not what the company wants. So the product owner is not he's not the only person that is involved. There are expectations also from him. So he's not actually making decisions like, yeah, well, I feel like this, and that's how we'll be doing it. So in that sense, also this is the expectations that product owners have to themselves, so, and this has to be aligned with the reality, so.
Probably different companies, different product owners.
Yes, and even if you're looking at just imagine that you have a startup and you're the startup owner, so you are the real product owner to this product that the startup is working on. Even then, you have some expectations from you and from your product. You might raise some capital from whatever. You might borrow it from your family or friends or bank, or so these guys have some expectations too. So you don't make decisions, just like that. So even in this case, I want to say, let alone when you have more structure around you.
We talked about is a Scrum Master and Product Owner, are those positions like a job, or are those roles in a Scrum team? So we mentioned that when we talked a couple of days ago. So how would you comment on that? So are those positions, or those are roles in the team which can be then switched?
I think Petri mentioned the product owner that is already, that probably the job that you do is something like a product manager, or sometimes a project manager too, or depending on the type of a product or thing that you're using Scrum for. But the product owner is really just a role within that larger definition that is contextually dependent. Same thing with the Scrum Master, really. I think Scrum Master is slightly more comprehensive. It's closer to a job in some ways than the product owner is, because a lot of times it should be a full-time job. Now, that's contextually dependent. I know that it's not possible to do that always, and it's possible to spread it out between people and things like that. But there should be very little added, ideally, on top of that person, so that they can be genuinely separate from the content. It's very hard to have other jobs within a project or other responsibilities than being a Scrum Master without getting engaged with the content, and that takes away from your latitude, your observations potential and distance as a Scrum Master. But genuinely, I have to say, I'm not 100% sure of this, the truth of this story, but I've heard that part of the reason why Scrum Master is called Scrum Master is because it is supposed to sound so funny and ridiculous that no one would ever put it on their business cards. Now, I've done that. I have had a business card at the time that said Scrum Master in it.
Yeah, and, a lot of examples, yeah.
Yeah, but a lot of organizations, the job title is often called like Agile Coach or something like that instead. So it's not necessarily Scrum Master, because what if the team goes Kanban?
Yeah,
does that mean you're out of the job? No, it doesn't. You can use those same role definition in Kanban, because Kanban is silent about roles. It just says it's all about the methods. It's fundamentally about the method, about how you control the process in a flow method, in a flow approach. So you need to add the roles. So you might as well take Scrum roles for it if they work. You don't have to call it Kanban Master. It's just as silly as a Scrum Master is. So you might as well say coach, team coach, or Agile coach, or whatever you want it.
Do you think that the name Scrum Master is maybe sometimes, I don't know, putting boundaries on the mind of a Scrum Master? So basically, if I'm a Scrum Master, I'm doing Scrum and that's it. And actually, it should be like I'm a coach. So maybe we are using Scrum, but there are also some other techniques and practices that we could use. So sure, I, as a Scrum Master, yeah. Do you think maybe it's putting some boundaries?
Sure, it might. Sure, it might. And it could do the same with people in the organization, especially since some other frameworks like Kanban don't say anything about the roles. But really, it shouldn't be.
Yeah.
But I think that's a maturity question as well. I mean, if you start as a Scrum Master and it's sort of like you just started in the job, you don't have a lot of prior experience, sticking with Scrum at first might make sense.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't develop those other understandings as a Scrum Master, then you will become useless at some point. You will lose your usefulness to the team because you run out of ideas and contributions, especially when things start changing.
Yeah, you should see yourself more as a coach. So an agile coach who should maybe implement some new practices that are maybe a better fit in sometimes in your team, and that, yeah.
And things change.
Yeah.
Things change even within a project. I mean, we might have... I've seen projects with very different phases. There might be exploration during which things like Kanban might be much more sensible, or lean startup style management. And then once you got more solid ideas, you might go into more Scrum-like development, that you have stable 2-week sprints, and that makes a lot of sense. And then you get to your release, and suddenly everything's coming at you at the same time. People sending feedback. You got next features coming in. You got the organization pushing for ideas, and you might just say, "Hey, to hell with Scrum. Let's go Kanban for a while," and just to handle with the situation, with the chaos, or just the amount of stuff that gets thrown at you, and you have to juggle. You have to juggle the priorities very rapidly, and so you can go Kanban for a while. And then as things cool down, you start moving more sort of steadily towards the next release. Then you go back to Scrum, and you go back and forth. So we should have that flexibility so that we have the right kind of control for the circumstances we have.
Yeah. I would connect just, there is one good question, because people ask questions in the match about, that, guys, and everyone who has some question, please do ask the questions in the match about Q&A section. So basically, we talked about the sprint goal and the responsibilities. So who is responsible for what? Is it a shared responsibility of the whole team, or do maybe sometimes people have some expectation that the responsible one is, I don't know, PO or something like that? So,
Petra?
Yeah, maybe we should define what we are talking about. So the sprint goals, I mean, the first thing is how you define sprint goals. So basically you have a sprint plan, that is sprint planning, and you decide what you will be doing in the next 2 weeks or 3 weeks or during the sprint. Based on this, you formulate sprint goal. So the one who is who is having the vision is the product owner. So he has the vision where the product is heading. So he has the vision of what should be achieved in this sprint. So because if I know that in whatever 6 months time I want to achieve something with my application, then I should have some sort of a rollout plan to this final goal. And this rollout plan is actually consistent of a smaller steps or smaller goals that I want to achieve. And these smaller steps are actually my sprint goals. And then, so of course, they will depend. They might vary. They might change based on what we really decided that is feasible to be done in this next sprint. So basically, the sprint goals is something that the whole team agrees upon. So product owner plus the team, they agree upon what will be the sprint goal of this sprint. But the product owner is the one who is sort of driving this ship, So we might decide whether we will, I'm trying to link to Petri's metaphor, but somehow it slips.
No, but if I think it could be that we need to be past Gibraltar by tomorrow afternoon. So how are we going to do that?
Exactly.
Is that possible?
Yeah, but the product owner knows that they should go through the Gibraltar and then to Atlantic Ocean or the Mediterranean Sea, depending on where they're coming from.
Yeah.
So but that is the point. So, and then when we went into the sprint, then it becomes the commitment of the development team to reach to Gibraltar, so because that's the question, who is responsible for the sprint goal? It depends what we are talking about, so that's, I think, answers the question.
If I take what you said and just try to summarize it a bit, so the product owner defines where we should be, and the team contributes to the sprint goal by talking about what's possible and what is achievable. And then by combining those two views, we end up with the actual sprint goal.
And we are actually all committed to that and all responsible for that. So achieving our goal, right? So,
that's why we are a team, So, that is something that people tend to forget in these discussions about the organizational structure, and we tend to forget that the Scrum team is a team consisting of Scrum Master, Product Owner, and developers. And they should function as a team, So sometimes, sometimes I hear this and that Scrum Master is protecting developers from the Product Owner. For me, that is, I don't understand what does that mean? That would be the same as you would be saying the coach is protecting the, goalie from attackers. They're in the same team. Why, there's, I don't know, maybe there are some specific situation when the people are not, quite, where the relationship in the team is so much, so much wrong that someone should, protect someone from the other one.
Yeah.
If we are a team, then why should,
So we are in the same team. Do you maybe have some good examples of how the Scrum Master and Product Owner, some good example of their cooperation to make the team better?
But just let me get back to the previous topic, if I may. Petri was talking about the Scrum Master, and I think really it's for me. I think that when you look at some personal characteristics of the people doing some jobs, I think for Scrum Master it's really critical to be open-minded. So right now here we are talking about the Scrum Master and Product Owner as the roles in a Scrum team. So we have it we take it as a sort of a starting point that we are talking about the Scrum environment, the Scrum framework, which is fine. This is something that we have chosen as a topic. But, when you're in an organization, then, you shouldn't be, first of all, you shouldn't be dogmatic, so you should have this flexibility, and you should, what Petri also said, you should investigate whether this is really the best way to do the things in this particular environment. So, in some other environment, it might be, in some other, something else might be, or as the time goes, things differ. And that's why it's critical for Scrum Master to have this open-mindedness, so to say, okay, looking at these people that I'm working with, and looking at this product that we are working on, and this whole setup and our experience and whatever, Scrum seems the good choice, or it doesn't, or as you, not to repeat the Petri's words, but so at this point of time, yes, and then tomorrow, no. That's what I just wanted to add to this story about Scrum Masters. And just briefly about the Product Owner and whether it's a position or it's a role. I've said at the beginning, it's my standpoint, but you might have a product owner as a sort of a position in a company, that is full-time employed as a product owner, speaking it narrowly. So writing user stories, working with a team, being on ceremonies of the Scrum, etc. That would mean that probably this product owner will have more than one team. So because it's then if it's the only thing you do is being the product owner of a Scrum team, then you probably can deal with two or I don't know, even more teams. But the question is,
depends on the company,
it depends on the setup of the company, their clients, etc., etc. And but the question is whether it's really the best way to do it. I mean, that's another. But it can be done as such. You can do it like that. So you say product owner is someone who is getting the user stories from someone else, and then he's organizing these user stories by some principles. Is detailing them, he's giving them to the team, and etc., working with the team. It can be done like that, and people call that product owner. So, I mean, and then we can discuss whether, that this should be done like that. Is this product owner or not, or something else? How do we call it, etc.? But it's another topic.
But there is different, let's say, types of product owner, depending on the environment, depending on the company. So basically, some companies function like that, some other, the product owner have much more responsibility when it comes to product vision, prioritization, what should be doing, decision making, and that stuff. So it probably depends on what your context in your company is.
It does. It depends on a lot of things. It depends on this particular person. So this if you look at sort of a development of the product owners. So you might say that the initial is like some sort of scribe and proxy product owner, etc., etc. And then at the end you have some like mini CEO, like a product owner with the highest level of decision making, so to say. And where you are on that scale, I mean, it depends also on this particular person. So I mean, if you know very well the Scrum, but then your domain knowledge is limited. So basically, you've been working as a product owner in whatever gaming industry, and then you switch to be a product owner in the finance industry. The products depend pretty much, customers depend pretty much, and you don't have this domain knowledge. So with limited domain knowledge, your extent of decisions that you're making is also limited. So what I wanted to say is that besides other things like the company itself, their organization, their setup, etc., it depends on this particular person that is in the role of product owner.
Cool. What would you say some maybe good examples of the cooperation of those two? So basically, there are very, very like 2 or 3 roles from Scrum of those 2 roles. So what are some good cooperations? You mentioned that sometimes the Scrum Master is protecting the team from the PO, so probably not the best situation. But what are some of the good examples maybe that you saw like a cooperation between those two?
So as you say about that protecting thing, I've seen things go the other way around too, that we need to protect the product owner from the team, like in a case of a new product owner.
Depends on the person,
It makes sense because product owner is only one and the team has several people, so you might protect them.
There are a lot of developers,
But anyway, so let me, so first of all, what I've seen good collaboration be like is where the Scrum Master is like sort of a person you can talk to as a product owner. So they can ask the product owner, like, so what's your plan for this sprint? Or what's your plan for the next release? Or what your plan for dealing with this and that? And that gives a chance for the product owner to actually go through that and vocalize their plans. Because I've seen it many times. When I say what I think, that forces me to be more clear about the articulation. And then when other people listen to that, they kind of start asking questions like things I didn't pay attention to, or impacts, or possible side effects of those decisions that I haven't even considered. They might say, which stakeholders are pleased by this? Which ones you do think will not like these things? How are you going to deal with that? So they can help you work through the plan as a product owner. by asking questions and pointing maybe or with questions possible holes in your plan.
Yeah, challenge.
So before you talk those things to the stakeholders or to the team, until you're more prepared, particularly when you have a tough stakeholder meeting coming in, that kind of a person to talk to might be very valuable. And it might be that you want to talk more than just the Scrum Master. You might want to talk to the team and others. Hey, I have this meeting. So that kind of service thing. Mm-hmm. Another thing where I've seen and where I've been very helpful as well is when we need to run a meeting with the stakeholders, for example. Mm-hmm. I can sort of plan the meeting with the product owner, like, so what do you want from this meeting? What are the goals that you want to achieve? And then we talk about how those could be achieved with effective facilitation. And then I facilitate the meeting so that the product owner can focus on the content and the interaction with the stakeholders. And I will take care that the timings are right. Will run the exercise. I'll make sure everything is prepared. So I will sort of like cater the meeting for the product owner. And so that they and the visitors, the stakeholders, they can enjoy the meeting to the best effect.
Yeah,
so
I think the challenging things, it's really important things. So all of us sometimes need to I don't know, rethink ourselves, talk to somebody about our ideas, about our goals. And sometimes maybe there is none in the team that we can talk to, like they I don't know, maybe that communication is not done. So basically, it's a good thing that Scrum Master is challenging and talking to people, not just the product owner. That is a good example, also to the developers as well. Yeah.
Now, these are personality issues and where people come from. So Scrum Masters who don't have all that much experience, they might focus more on the facilitation things, and then some Scrum Masters just have seen everything. Mm-hmm. They've been through so many tough situations. They've seen them in projects. So they might actually have a lot of things to contribute, especially if the product owner is still learning the ropes in terms of the roles acquisition and other thing, getting used to playing product owner. So they might provide a lot of actual contextual training and support. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't necessarily mean that the Scrum Master should be the product owner because they know so much. It's usually that the Scrum Master knows about the system and the environment. They don't necessarily know about the product. And that's where the difference is. The product owner is the product's expert. Mm-hmm. They should be the passionate driver for this idea and these customers and this value that they are advocating for. But that doesn't mean that they are good project managers or that they're good project leaders or product leaders. That's where the Scrum Master can come in and support them, make leadership easier to them, management easier to them by not doing it for them, but doing it with them.
Mm-hmm. What's your point of view on this?
Yeah, I think for both of these roles, it's important to have communicative people, both Scrum Master and Product Owner. And then, Scrum Master talks a lot to the team, to the Product Owner, to other people in the organization, and so they should be, talkative, so to say. The same goes for the Product Owner.
I'm not sure that is the word, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, maybe. Anyway, so and if both persons are such, if they are communicative, then it makes life easier for both of them, because then they can express themselves and express the expectations one from another, and then all these things that Petri said that are really very important in this relationship. Mm-hmm. I remember when I've started working in a Scrum or implementing Scrum in the organization that I was at that moment. I didn't have experience, of course. I had just started as a sort of a product owner. I got the certification, so I knew what this all means, how it should function, etc. But I didn't have. I had some other experience at that point of time, like a project manager or leading some of the product, but not as a product owner. And what really meant to me a lot is the colleague of mine who was a Scrum Master at the team that we have been experimenting with. and he had the experience from the companies that he's been working earlier for, and he's been working as a Scrum Master before, and that his experience meant a lot to me, because he actually helped me on all these tasks that product owners should be doing, and some of them Petri mentioned, and that's pointing out the things pointing out the right things to the stakeholders, and then giving the proper angle. And also in this sort of a critical situation when you're experimenting with something, you're introducing something, there are a lot of uncertainties around, how this will be accepted, the whole Scrum idea and this way of organizing things. So, and that really helped a lot. So that goes under this, both into this communication part, but also this, if you have an experienced Scrum Master and an inexperienced product owner, that's okay. I mean, it also goes in the other way around. Even if you have a sort of not so experienced Scrum Master, but experienced product owner, they can help each other, and they should help each other. And coming back to this team metaphor, so both of these guys are really, or should be really, essentially interested in the success of their team. And that is their common ground. That is something that links them together. So, enough with the metaphors.
These two roles are really expanding a lot, I would say, and I don't know if you would agree with me. So they're really expanding into different industries, and I see that I think 56% of teams are using Scrum. So could you maybe give your insight on why you chose this path of yours? So basically, you started the Petri, now you mentioned that you didn't work there, and then somebody put you in the Scrum team and you became a product owner. So what was your path through this, where you are now? So how did you begin? In short, of course, how did you begin? How did that work? Because I know if we start, you both have a lot of years of experience. So let's try to keep it brief. How your path was.
Well, for me, it was sort of, I haven't planned this in this way. I mean, not that I had some long-term plans anyway, but I didn't project in a whatever year time I will be a product owner. Then in the next 3 years I will be getting experience in different companies, blah blah blah. So I didn't have that sort of plan. But the way how we have been doing things then in this company, it all seemed very wrong to me, because it was focused on the documentation. It's pretty much classic waterfall way of doing things. And I don't know, personally, I'm not into much of a, documentation guy. I'm more like, get the chisel and the hammer and start working on, So this approach of, documenting everything and being focused on this, it didn't, to me, it wasn't my cup of tea. And then when we have been discussing, obviously there are some other issues about the typical issues that I won't go into now. And then when we have been discussing and talking about the alternative ways, and we have been discussing Scrum, and I've been reading about it, it really just clicked with my personality, And what is important for me about the Scrum is that the Scrum is the framework, which we also tend to forget sometimes. And, people expect from the Scrum like a recipe, a prescription of what exactly you should be doing in any particular situation, which it is not. So it is a framework. It gives you, an idea of, or some other people's experience, how it might work probably, and then you should try and see if it works for yourself. And that's something that I really liked with the Scrum. And that's the way, how I got into it. So it just somehow clicked to my personality. Mm-hmm. And then, I mentioned, certification. and then years of experience and trying, and of course messing things up, and doing some things okay, and then so here we are.
I think you're doing okay now, I would say.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
Petri, your.
So I used to be the waterfall guy, actually. So in the sort of the first half of 2000s up until 2005 and 6, I really tried to make waterfall work. And I think we did pretty good waterfall, especially compared in the industry. We were very good at waterfall. But I was ultimately, I got myself into a role of a process improvement manager. I don't know if many organizations have roles like that, but we had someone whose job is to figure out what's the right way of building software and then helping others do it. So improving the ways that we work. And of course, as long as I had only the waterfall in my mind, then that was the way that we tried to make it work. And I studied waterfall and those things and tried to find better ways of working with the people in the organization. Now, in 2005, it must have been maybe September, October, I read the book Extreme Programming Explained. And that changed my world. So I had heard about Agile. I'd heard about rapid application development, but it just didn't make sense to me. I didn't know how I can trust that system. It talked about it said many nice words about faster and other more responsive and flexible, but it just didn't work for me. I just didn't understand how it can work until I read that book. So Extreme Programming Explained was really the transformation for me in my mind. So many things that were predating Agile that were preparing me. I was seeing some problems with waterfall and couldn't solve them. And then that book solved them. It provided me this Agile approach and why I can trust it. And that was important for me, why I can trust this system. Mm-hmm. So even though I might not make long-term commitments like the waterfall talks about those, you make careful plans and then you can trust what you're doing, that it's a sensible thing. Then the XP gave me a framework I can use to go with smaller chunks and iterate and change, respond to change effectively. And then, of course, with that insight, I started talking about Agile within the organization. I started reading, I came across Scrum. I started reading about it. And in about half a year later, we started experimenting with it. And so because of my role as a process improvement manager, so the Agile coach role or the Scrum Master role very naturally fell onto me. So I was working with a team that was working with a customer, with a product owner on the customer side. And it was just a natural thing for me to be the coach, a Scrum Master. And so I kind of evolved automatically into one role. So if Petja was fell naturally for the product owner, I fell naturally for the Scrum Master.
You both mentioned the trying and experimenting. That's what I like, because it's about it's Agile. It's all about like try, experiment, get feedback. Yeah,
it is. I mean, it's so good in the books, and so many things. It's just like, oh, this is a natural way of doing it. And then when you do it in practice, what you find out is that things are not like they are in the books. They're not nicely. There's no easy solution. There's no someone coming and tell you, hey, by the way, do it this way and that'll be perfect. You have to make mistakes. And of course, you have to make successes as well. And so from those, you learn. And so over the next couple of years, we did a lot of projects. And then I found out the CST path, that I could actually do this for a living and train people as a certified Scrum trainer. And then I went for that. And here I am. I've been a CST for over 12 years now.
We've done a lot of trainings here also in Belgrade together, and I don't know even how much so far. We have one in April in less than a month. I hope that you're ready in less than a month. We have another round. So tell me, do you see some change when it comes to people? That a lot of people went to your trainings here and also in Finland and other countries. So do you see some change in the people that are coming? Could you maybe comment on that?
In some ways, no. Mm-hmm. And in some ways, kind of yes. Training is as an approach to learning. Training is most effective when you come to a training sort of early in your learning path. There are models about learning, but they all pretty much say if you're new, then training can be very effective. It doesn't replace practice, obviously, but it can save you a lot of time. If you got a good trainer, it saves you a lot of time about getting to ideas that then you can try on and practice and then learn to master. So training, most people who come to the training are early Agilists within, say, 2 first years of Agile, with very different, not necessarily very good experiences. Sometimes, I know the exceptions are there. Like 5 years of Agile, they've done this for a long time. They're very successful. They just want to get the certificate. And then maybe they only learn some nuances and some new ideas, but it's not a transformational thing for them. And that's been throughout these 12 years that I've been a CS, that's just been the general mix-up. Now, the thing that has changed is that there are more and more people outside of Scrum, outside of IT, that are using these ideas in other domains and other functions. And that's definitely an increase.
As I see,
I think that's the biggest difference.
I talk to someone, and people sometimes call, of course, and ask, okay, when I get the certificate, do I know everything? And I tend to say, okay, when you finish faculty and you go 4 years and learn for something, do you know everything? Of course, no. You need to continuously educate yourself and make some practice out of it. So how would you say how important is continuous education and practice in implementing Agile framework, Scrum, or any other? Yeah.
I'm still learning. I've done Agile for more than 15 years. I'm still learning. I'm still studying stuff, maybe different stuff than I did back then. So it's stuff around Agile, that have an impact on success in organization, success in people and teams, additional skills that I can complement myself and my thinking with. But I want to say one thing about the previous question, now that I remembered it. Then there's another change. I'm seeing more people now doing bad Agile than I used to see in the past. Because a lot of organizations are doing Agile, but they are doing it their way. And so there's a lot of people who say, we're not doing this. I can see what this is, why this is, this is good. We're definitely not doing that. And so there's much more of that than it used to be. In the old days, I'm not going to say good old days. I think these are much better days now. But in the old days, it was more like people didn't know Scrum and Agile. But if they had experience, it was slightly better.
But what's your Petri view on this?
I would like. What is the what's the difference among people learning about the Agile and Scrum? And I'm looking at the people that I'm working as a product coach. I talk to people about the product, of course, and part of these talks will go into the program that we are working on, and this goes also hand in hand with the continuous learning, this product owner development program that we are now working on. But when I'm looking at people and how they change, I see that I don't know, like 5 or more years ago, I didn't have to explain much about the waterfall. Simply people were coming from that background. So as Petri was mentioning, and me also coming, basically this was the first sort of way of doing things that you have met when you start working. But now these people, young people that are coming, that I'm talking to, some of them don't even know. I mean, if they know it, they know it just as a word, as a term, So, but they actually don't have any experience with waterfall. And then, this making a contrast between the agile and the waterfall, somehow you feel that it's simply, it doesn't make too much sense because they don't know and they don't care about some waterfall, So, I mean, that is a difference, I would say. And as far as learning is in question, I mean, as Petri said, I mean, you always learn. I mean, there is no end of it. You can't just say, yeah, I've finished, my education and now I will, I don't know what, So you continuously learn something, whether, yeah, that's.
Yeah, you mentioned. I'm really glad that we are doing that product owner development program, and that we are creating that because I went through certification. It really gave me a lot of insight and ground of knowledge when it comes to Scrum. And what should people do continuously is like, okay, try that in practice. Try it and learn more through programs like there are a lot of programs out there that are maybe some continuous programs that we can learn and try different things, talk to other people. And I really hope that we are going to create something and that where you will share knowledge on this. Yeah. What would you say if somebody is new to Scrum? How would you guide them? Because I do get that questions. How would you guide them to determine what is the best role for them? So actually, that is the question.
Assuming they don't have any experience at all, so coming like fresh from the faculty, so from the university.
Or changing industries, changing jobs or something like that. So how would you say, okay, if you like this, go to this, try this role. If you like that, try that role. Do you have some? Did you get that questions? Because I did. I don't know if people ask you that stuff.
Yeah, I find that a weird question personally.
Okay.
I'm not weird. Sorry, not weird question. It's just one that I don't come across.
Okay.
But we have a different environment in which we operate. You got different questions than I get. So, I mean, I think this, for most part, I think that's a natural thing. I mean, it doesn't really make sense to me that you could pick one and then this is what I'm going to do. Because all of these roles benefit from having a background of some kind. I mean, how are you going to be an effective product owner if you don't know products and markets and customers and business? Mm-hmm. How are you going to be a good one? How are you going to be a good team member if you don't have any skills that are useful to the team and getting something done as a product and making it available to customers? It's really difficult to be a Scrum Master if you have no idea how work works. And that you've maybe done some of the roles yourself, and so that you can help others be more effective. So, I think for a lot of people, the role that's best suited to them comes very naturally. So if I summarize the three criteria, that the most clear ones is, if you love business, if you get really excited for making plans and engaging with customers and money and making successful products, then be the product owner. But you would probably gravitate to that kind of roles in the organization anyways. Some people love solving problems. They could be design problems, they could be engineering problems or code problems, they could be testing problems. And that's a natural path to becoming a really great team member. We need those skills. We need more of those skills than business skills in many ways in organizations. In the Scrum team, we got 5 to 70 people in the team. We got one product owner. Mm-hmm. So we need a lot of those people. And some people kind of naturally gravitate to a more helpful role. And that was very natural to me. I'm not saying I'm perfectly made up for that. I do have some challenges in keeping my hands off from the things that people are doing because they are so exciting and sort of my demon. but in a lot of ways, I went through QA, and QA is about enabling others creating great software, and we don't directly contribute except through testing, and so our contribution is something that elevates the programmers, and so that kind of built that mindset into me. So when I went to process improvement, it was very natural to be the Scrum Master through that, and I think everybody can connect themselves to one of this. There's a fourth one that I want to say before going forward. Some people are just natural people leaders and organizational leaders, managers of some kind. Or at least that they gravitate and become one. So let's remember that these three roles that we have, the team member, the product owner, and Scrum Master, they're not the only roles that are important in organization. We need other roles as well. We need managers who are enabling these things in the Agile to happen in organization. So some people might find calling for that. Maybe that's sort of an evolution that you grow from one role to a managerial role, but it's a different kind of very valuable role in that Agile organization. So I would ask, do you love solving puzzles? Do you love business, or do you want making others successful?
Yep.
And then gravitate to that role that you most love.
Cool, thanks.
And I couldn't agree more. But one thing that I would like to say to the people that are having this sort of dilemma, I don't think there are maybe just a handful of decisions that you make in life that are sort of can't be altered or changed, So every decision that you make, you're looking at the consequences, and if the consequences are not the way you would like it, then you sort of switch the way you are going, So it's not like like in American movies, at one point you made a wrong decision and then the whole life goes to hell. I don't believe simply in that way of life behavior. So in that sense, it's not like you are choosing whether you want to be a Scrum Master or a product owner or a developer or a manager, and then you're stuck for life. You made this decision and that's it. So sorry, guy, better luck next time, next life. So it's not like that. So you might choose to be a Scrum Master, or maybe the opportunity just popped out and you grabbed it and you're working as a Scrum Master, but then at one point you see that you're actually sort of more inclined toward working with products instead of with people and the processes, and then you might decide to change and to try to be a product owner. So it's not I wouldn't say it's unusual, and it can be beneficial, so. And it's quite okay. So you try to do something else. So I don't see a problem with that. I don't see a problem with the Scrum Master switching to a product owner or a product owner switching to a Scrum Master. I see the problem if you're trying to do everything, so both the Scrum Master and the product owner role. But
sometimes we hear about that as well. So one person being both roles, which I don't think it's possible really to be.
No. Me also, but changing over time, changing your career path is completely okay. So you're developing, you're seeing other things. At a point when you decided to be a Scrum Master, you maybe didn't quite understand what the product owner and working with the product is, or it might be different question. It may be different reasons why you have chosen in such a way. So it's quite okay to change. If you switch every 6 months, then something is wrong, but that's something else. And I think it's a good sort of a test question, as Petri put it. Do you want to work with products or with people or something else? That should give you approximately where you are at this point of time. Where do you try to find yourself at this moment? Okay,
before wrapping up, because we are out of time, let's just see. I see couple of questions on Matchabout, so let's just go through them. I do believe that we mentioned some of them. So one of the questions is, what do you think, how many teams PO can adequately handle? We talked a bit about it, depending on the company and depending on the context and what the product owner is doing in that situation. So would you add something to that as well?
That's it. I mean, I think we are focusing there on the wrong thing. We're focusing on how many teams the product owner should be leading. I mean, the product owner is the product owner, so he should be leading the product, or at least the part of the product, So, and that is something that maybe we should be discussing. When we're discussing about how many teams the product owner should be handling, it's not leading, because the product owner is not the leader of the team, but so then we are jumping into this question, how do you define the role of the product owner? So It seems that at that point of time, you say the product owner is the only field of work is working with a already existing backlog and with a team. And then it's pretty narrow understanding of the product owner role. So in that case, I mean, I don't know.
Okay. We have a comment. Scrum Master and Product Owner are part of the team. Don't you think it would be better to work on having the team trust them than to protect each other from the team? I do believe we talked about it, that there should not be any protection, although there are a large number of developers when it comes to Scrum Master or Product Owner. But yeah, it should be like that, not protecting.
So can I have a comment on that, please?
Yep.
So this is a maturity question, I think. When we start Scrum, we don't have the skills to work as a team. We don't know how the roles can complement each other. We don't have good practices doing that. And if we come from an organizational culture where there was a power difference between product owner and a team, the teams are very subservient to product owners or project managers, and they were just used to being told what to do. And vice versa, the managers were used to telling people what to do and managing them. So in those kind of situations where we start, we may have to do some protecting people around. But yes, once we grow in the use of Scrum and we learn to play together, then of course that distinction bit should disappear. We are on the same side, making the product successful in the market. And then we shouldn't need to talk about protecting.
Yeah.
We might still need to, we can be assholes sometimes to one another, right?
Yep.
I hope that word isn't too bad, but that's what it is. We can be really nasty to other people in the team. And so that's another thing that we have to learn over time, is how to be nice to one another. How do we, every group has its own culture. I'm going to say that. There's just not one way that you can be nice to one another. Some teams have a very strong humor, whatever that means, very, let's call it strong, and could be odd. And some others are very different. Some people like to go and party together. Others have a dinner with wine, and others just don't like to do that at all. But they're still a great team. So those are things that over time you evolve. And as a Scrum Master, you want to see it evolve in a way that makes the team better. And the team talks about it so that they become more like them, what they want it to be, and talk about those things. And so no protecting, but we need to talk about how we can be respectful with one another so that we all can feel safe and involved, engaged in the work that we do.
One more question. Will the recording of this will be available? Yes, it will be. So that is all for the questions. We are out of time, and I know that you guys want to spend evenings with your families. It's quite late now. I would really like to thank you all. Thank you for joining me. And as always, it was a pleasure talking to you, learning new things. Petri, we will see each other on the trainings in less than a month, right? And
3 weeks, I think.
Yeah, 3 weeks. And Peja, I hope we will see soon and work on our stuff with the program. Thank you all. Thank you for coming. Really, thank you all for watching us. And guys,
thank you for inviting us.
Have a lovely evening.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure.
Yep.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Have a nice evening, guys.
See you all.
See ya. Take care. Stay safe.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.